joining us today here on Desertwood Days. I am your host, Kathy Blaze, and today I am here with Mr. Jamie Rivera. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure, and such a pleasure to meet you.
No, likewise. Happy to be here.
Good. I've heard great things about you and your new film.
Oh, no, thank you so much. As long as it's good things, then it's true. Anything bad, don't listen
I won't. So, Jamie, are you a native of Arizona?
to. Basically, I'm initially from Chicago,
Okay.
but I moved out here probably back in 96, 97, around there. So basically grew up around here in Arizona and however you want to say.
Yeah, so you've been here a while.
Yeah.
That's good. So, when did you become a filmmaker?
I've been wanting to be a filmmaker since I was a kid. I remember it kind of stemmed a lot of it me just kind of playing with my brothers and watching a lot of movies. I was always kind of obsessed with like how movies were put together, and I would always play with my toys and create like action sequences and scenarios and plots and eventually when I was a kid I always wanted to be like an actor because I was like I get to be all do all these things that I see in these movies. And then I think around I was like 8 or 9, I realized it's actually not the actors who do that.
Uh huh.
It's like these, like the writers, the directors,
Uh-huh.
all those other things. So I was like, all right, that's kind of what I want to do, and I
Wow.
kind of settled on it then.
At age 8 or 9,
Yeah,
your mind was really going, huh?
yeah. I was
That's
thinking of ideas for movies and stories, and then just kind of learning how to like actually make that happen.
Wow. Was there any other filmmakers in the family?
My oldest brother, he kind of helped me get into it. He didn't follow it as much as I did, but I remember he used to watch things like what was it? It was this old movie Magic, like TV show that would air,
Mm-hmm.
and he would show me clips and commercials of that. And I remember being a kid, I was always into like scary stories too. So I remember being in the library looking at a lot of books on like ghosts and urban legends, and then I think I came across like an issue of Fangoria once, and it was like this Tales from the Crypt movie was coming out, and I saw all like the demon stuff and the blood, and I was like behind the scenes. I was like, people are actually getting paid to do this. I was like, I want that job. That looks fun.
That is
So,
awesome. It always amazes me. Children at young ages, their minds are just so out there. I mean, there's so much there. I
mhm.
mean, for them to think about filmmaking or being a musician or singing or the things that I think it's just as an adult, we I don't want to say we go to sleep, our minds go to sleep, but we get so engulfed in grown folk stuff.
Mhm.
We forget to have fun and do the things that we dream of. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely feel like it's probably a lot harder to come up with ideas now that I'm older, and I'm also thinking of like how do we shoot it.
Mm.
So now that I actually have like the real world, uh, like know how of how to make a movie. So whenever I come up with an idea, I'm like, oh, is this even feasible to shoot? Like, and I'll start editing before I even get it to paper. But I do feel that to a degree because I know like I do a lot of editing work. So whenever I'm like really like in the woods of editing,
Mm-hmm.
and just like getting into nitty gritty, like frame by frame detail, I'll find myself listening to like a playlist of music from like when I was a kid
Right.
wanting to do this, and like the world was just this big fantastic magical place, so it kind of puts me mentally back into that kid
Right.
mindset while
Yes.
doing adult things.
I just love that. I love that. And that brings me back to I always talk about um this retreat I went to because it was so much fun. That's what I remember about this retreat. It was an actors retreat I went to. And here we are, these grown people, and we're having fun. There was a day when they took us to where we're going to act like kids. We played games. That was all we were going to do for that time was play games.
Mm-hmm.
And when do we have time to do that as adults?
Yeah.
But as actors, we need to be able to do those things, or filmmakers, so that we can put ourselves into those characters,
Oh,
into the mind
absolutely.
of the characters, I should say.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. It always just gets me when I hear I, filmmakers say, "Oh, I wanted to do this when I was 5 or 8 or 9." That's just amazing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I think it has to be a passion. You have to love what you do, and
Yeah.
that's always I feel like a great exercise to try to get back into touch with like playing those exercises, like
Hmm.
going to those retreats, learning to just kind of get away from like the everyday life bit of it
Right.
all, so you can try
Right.
to tap into that like creativity, that raw
Right.
creativity
Right.
that kind of drew you into it in the first place.
So being an 8 or 9 year old watching the movies on television, was there a certain filmmaker that inspired you?
Hmm.
Was there a certain genre of filmmaking that inspired you?
I mean, as a kid, typically of like the mid '80s and such, like I loved Steven Spielberg movies. Obviously he made like a wide variety of films that just appealed to the imagination of the kid. But they weren't like necessarily 100% kid friendly.
Mm.
But yeah, again, I was big into like the scary stories, and I think one of my favorite films of all time is this movie called Monster Squad, and it was basically like the perfect combination of it was a movie for kids and families, but also adult like in nature because it's kind of like the Goonies
Uh-huh.
meets like the Universal Monsters, like a
Okay.
bunch of kids in the mid '80s, like coming across Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy,
Uh,
but it's kind of treated somewhat serious, but also like they're kids still.
right.
And I think like just kind of works like that really intrigued me. If it could keep me up at night, even better.
So, do you is that the type of work that you do now? Is that what you create now?
That is kind of what I skewed more towards. I do like all types of movies, comedies, dramas. I've kind of dabbled in a little bit of all of that, but the last one I did was more of like erotic thriller. Try to step out of my wheelhouse a little bit more. I've done some more dramatic thrillers, some
Mm.
comedies, uh, kind of more genre pieces. I'd love to do something more dramatic, just 100% dramatic. I love that genre as well, but I just feel like I have to find like the strong enough script or the strong enough idea. But for the most part, I like things that kind of capture the imagination, allow me to incorporate a little bit more of the fantastic in the everyday.
Right.
So that's what appeals to me the most.
What do you think is it seems like there's a big draw towards the horror or the thriller type
Mhm.
genre of filmmaking. What's the draw to that?
I think it's because you can basically do whatever you want in that genre, and get away with it. You can tell like a comedic story, a science fiction story, a romance story. You can deal with taboo topics that most other films might not want to touch on, but you can do that through this lens of horror and touching on horror that it kind of allows you a little bit more creativity and freedom to express
Mhm.
your story. I feel like if you're telling a story, no matter how serious or well intentioned the message is, if it's like a drama, um, it could come off as preachy. And I
Mm.
feel like that could alienate some audiences, no matter how well intentioned your movie is. But
Right.
if you do it under like even like the guise of a horror film, somehow it
You can
works.
sneak it in there,
You
huh?
can sneak that in there and it'll work.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the appeal of it is just people the creative freedom it allows people to have.
Is there any areas that you don't touch?
Um, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I just think as the stories come along, I'm always interested to see what people come up with, even if I don't like have no interest in making that kind
Mm.
of content. I'm always interested in seeing what it can offer, like what's the story being told. Like I've
Mm.
seen going to a lot of film festivals lately, some very like kind of like moving or even disturbing short films that I'm like, ooh, I don't think I ever would have touched that, but like
Mm.
I'm glad I saw it. So it just kind of really depends on the lens of what the story is and the purpose of it and the intention behind it.
Have you ever created anything that you just didn't like afterwards?
Ooh, I know there is a degree of some of that in the past. Like I know I did a short film once because I've written a lot of my own kind of work. Um, but usually once you write it on the page and you're on set listening to people say the dialogue, I just remember being like, once I was like, I really hate this dialogue. Like listening to it being said now, I'm like, hold on, let me rewrite some of this. Let me touch up on some of this. But for the most part, I've been pretty content with what I go into doing. I usually have a pretty thorough vetting process going into like working on a project, because again, you're going to dedicate like a considerable amount of time working on something,
Right, right,
and I don't want to have that like
right.
moment of regret of like, this just didn't turn out the way I wanted to.
It seems like you do you wear quite a few hats here.
Mm.
Filmmaker, you do editing,
Yeah.
you seem like you dabble in the music part also.
Music is probably, well, music and sound is probably my weakest suit. I'll always like bring up someone else in to do that.
Okay.
For the most part, editing I is probably my favorite thing of the entire process. The I like to direct, I like to write, but like the editing portion of it all
Oh,
is the thing that appeals to me the most. Everything else, ideally, I can shoot a movie. I know how to
oh,
use the camera. I know my way around it. But I'd rather have someone else bring in their unique vision.
right.
Same thing with sound. Same thing with music. Art department. I'd rather have them kind of like bring what they have to the table to make it better.
Sure.
And my editing brain is just kind of thinking on the back end of like, how is this all going to put together?
Sure. So we were speaking about editing, and that's something that you enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy that because, as a storyteller, you're able to cut and piece that story to your liking?
Absolutely. I find it's like one of the most crucial parts of it. And there's like countless examples you can look out online, even other films like big budget studio movies that was just a bit of a re-edit. They're so much better.
Hmm.
Um, director's cuts and whatnot, you can always look out there. But I just find like when you're putting a piece together, you might find like this scene runs a little long. What's wrong with it? Trim a few frames here. Oh,
Right,
suddenly it works. Well, actually, let's move this piece over here instead, and that dialogue over here.
right,
It kind of like or sometimes you might find out you don't even need all of it.
right.
You know, I think
So it's like seeing your vision come to life right in front
mhm.
of you.
Yeah, and you have to be open to that. I feel like one of the first like shorts I did recently when I started getting back on like the filmmaking train was this short called Bright Eyes. It was like 3.5 minutes long. The initial idea was it like a 1 minute, like just a one joke, the whole killer behind
Mm.
somebody in the scantily clad girl in a home all by herself. Hello, anyone there? And the killer's waiting there for her to turn around, and she starts
Oh,
doing the slowest slow turn
oh.
in the history of slow turns, and the killer just starts getting restless, like just waiting for her to turn around. He starts doing stretches and stuff. And I initially had that in like one wide take, but I found like we also set up some other cameras to catch
Uh-huh.
pickup stuff, and I found out as we were
He's
putting
like,
it
dang it,
together.
girl, hurry up.
Yeah, and I was like, exactly, and I was like, you know what, the one wide take probably wouldn't work, so I had to like realize I had to cut this up a bit.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness. Tell us about one of your previous projects you worked on.
Yeah, well, that one was one of them. That Bright Eyes was probably the first one I did that hit a lot of like kind of success on like the filmmaker, no, it's film festival circuit.
Okay.
We got into a lot of film fests, won a lot of awards for that one. It was a super simple premise, 3 minutes long. And then after that, I did a couple of other shorts helping friends edit. One I helped was the DP and I was the cinematographer and
Oh.
editor on my friend Rick Gutierrez's film Stay, which is like a thriller
Mm.
like film. And then I did this other one called Faust 2. That was a comedy.
Oh, you
Um,
did a comedy.
yeah,
Okay.
and that was another comedy one about like a struggling writer having writer's block, about to sell his soul to the devil, and then like as he's about to sell his soul, the devil realizes he has like his fingers crossed behind his back, and they just start bickering over something so childish. And so it was a fun shoot. We shot it in a day. Before that, I did this like dramatic thriller called Fathers,
Mm.
about like this guy talking to a psychiatrist about like a fear he used to have as a child, where like he would constantly dream about this kid trying to murder him, and then he sought therapy, got help, got over it a bit, and then when he became an adult and had a kid, his son slowly started to become the kid he used to have nightmares of,
Wow.
and like how he dealt with that and the fear he had of that. So that was a good one. We had a lot of success with that as well.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so yeah,
That
a
sounds
lot of those.
interesting right there. I'd like to ask, as a filmmaker, when your films start going through the festival circuit, what is your expectation? I mean, of course, you want to win some awards or whatever, but what is your expectation from the film festivals for your movies? What are you looking to receive out of that?
Mainly feedback, connections, community, like reaching out there because you can show your movie to like your family and friends and everyone will
Mm-hmm.
pat you on the back,
Right.
and that's a great feeling. But like the festivals, you go out there to get the audience reaction, to build connections with people. Because my co-producer and co-writer and actor on my latest film, Aaron, I met him through a film festival,
Mm.
and even the last film I was been working on. I've gone to a lot of film festivals with that one and building some great connections there, meeting people at these festivals. They have
Right.
fantastic films. They appreciate my work. So it's just a matter of just building that community. And when it comes time to do bigger things, it's like,
Right.
hey, we know each other. We know each other's work. Let's try to utilize each other and our resources and see what we can
Right.
do.
That's awesome. I often wondered if most people took in consideration what are the expectations from the film festivals, or because hey, Jamie submitted his films to the film festival, I'm going to submit mine too. But what are you expecting? I mean,
Yeah,
what do you want to gain out of that?
it's mainly that. I would say the best way I can describe it is like if you were like a comedian going to a festival, because some festivals you go to, there's not a lot of people in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
There might be five people there that your film was playing to. So you can't necessarily go for like the praise or the awards or something.
Right.
It's going there to see who in there like appreciated the work, who can you talk to, and
Right.
just kind of like bounce ideas off of.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, because there's
Sure.
definitely been some festivals where it's like theater's packed,
Mm-hmm.
great. Others, couple people in the room, that's great too.
Right.
Like you kind of have to manage your
Might be
expectations
the
and
right two
know.
people in there.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, hey, I'm doing this because I love it, and let's see if these people love it as
Right,
well.
right. So you brought us some media today, right?
Yeah, it's a trailer for the latest short film that I have that's currently circling the festival little circuit right
Okay.
now. Yeah, we have a couple screenings. One coming up in January in Georgia, another local one in February.
Awesome. Let's
Mhm.
take a look at it.
Mhm.
Wow, that was deep. I love that the way that blood comes in at the end though.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool
Wow.
effect there.
Yes, it is. Where did your mind go when you were creating? Where did you get your thoughts from this for this?
Well, this particular idea for this movie was actually came from Aaron. He kind of had the seed of the idea, and together he wanted me to work on it. I kind of helped co-write and direct the film, and he wanted to make something that was very unsettling and
Mm.
like this kind of hard-hitting piece. So we kind of bounced the idea back and forth and started shaping it into the final product. And we ultimately wanted to try to step out of our comfort zones, doing new
Right.
things. We never shot anything that was like overtly like violent or
Mm.
sexual in
Mm.
nature. So we're like, well, let's kind of dip our like our toes into that and still kind of try to blend it into some kind of obscure dark romance
Right.
story. So even though it's like looks all like shocking and
Mm.
horrible, at the end of the day, we try to pull it into some kind of romantic, like twisted romance thing.
Oh.
So it's just kind of comes down to like we wanted the
They were
audience
definitely twisted, weren't
yeah,
they?
yeah. We wanted the audience to be shocked and disturbed by what we were doing, and by the end, if make them go kind of like, "What's going on here? Like, what was that? What did we just like? What kind of ride that we went on?" And the people who got it would probably be like, "Yeah, that was cool."
So, is this a short or is this a feature?
That's a short.
Oh, okay.
It's about 16, 17 minutes long.
Do you have plans to make this into a feature?
That particular one, no. I think it would kind of come down to like how would I want to tell that story into the feature form, because we very much structured that into like a short film kind of mold. So I haven't really thought of ideas to flesh that one out into the feature, because there's different ways I can go about it. And again, I always think of what do I want the audience to feel when the credits roll. So like I haven't thought of that for a future idea. I have other features I want to do that I have in mind, that I have some like rough drafts written, but I haven't really fleshed that one out yet.
That is one of the questions I love to ask is when you're putting this on paper, when you're writing this, are you taking in consideration the audience at that time, at that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm always thinking about that as well, because I kind of try to write that. Like I try to write for myself at first, but then like if it's a little bit too obscure, if it's a little bit too weird, I think, okay, well, who will get this? What's my audience for? This film was clearly like I was aiming for like a genre audience. Like, hey, if you don't appreciate this, if you don't understand it, or if you don't like it, that's cool. That's a valid response. Like we were strictly going for like people who like that extreme. Who will see something like that and be like, oh man, I really wish they took it up a notch.
So were you guys pleased with the outcome?
Oh yeah. I would say we probably achieved 90 to 95% of what we set out to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is the most I can say that anything. I mean, we've had some hiccups there going along in the process, had to change some things out just due to the nature of the shoot, because there's a lot of fight choreography, a lot of blood, a lot of special effects that were being used.
Let's see, I'm gonna have her teach me that move she did.
Christina? Yeah, Christina was great. She came along and she was kind of a last minute audition, because we initially had it cast with another actress. And she backed out of the project right as we were starting to film. So Christina became available, and then she started taking things up even more a notch, because she was like, oh, let's add in this, let's add in that. And she kind of has a stud background herself. So she was pushing us like every single day to do even better.
That's great. So where can our audience find you?
They can find me. I am on Facebook, Instagram. You can look up like Jamie Rivera out there, and I'll be I'm available out there.
Okay. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you here today, Jamie.
I was happy to be here.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us here today on Desertwood Day, and we will catch you next time.